The land grows quiet long before the cold reaches its deepest point. Days shorten, shadows stretch across frozen ground, and the sun begins to linger low on the horizon. For the people of the north, this was not a season that arrived suddenly. Winter announced itself slowly, with warning signs written in the sky, the wind, and the behavior of animals. Long before the first heavy snow fell, the Vikings were already preparing for what lay ahead. Winter was not simply a time of cold, it was a test of endurance. For months, the earth would offer nothing. Fields would harden like stone. Rivers would freeze, turning once familiar paths into silent barriers. Storms could isolate entire settlements, cutting them off from neighbors and trade. In this long darkness, survival depended not on strength alone, but on foresight, patience, and a deep understanding of the land. The Viking world was shaped by its climate. Summers were brief and demanding, filled with relentless labor. Every task carried urgency because failure in the warm months meant suffering in the cold ones. Crops had to be planted, harvested, and stored with precision. Livestock needed shelter and fodder. Tools were repaired, roofs reinforced, and ships pulled ashore. There was little room for error. As autumn faded, the rhythm of life began to change. Work shifted indoors. Smoke rose steadily from longhouse roofs as families gathered closer together. Inside the longhouse, the hearth became the center of existence. Fire was never taken for granted. Wood had been collected and dried months earlier, stacked carefully to last through the season. A poorly managed fire could mean illness, hunger, or death. Flames provided warmth, light, and the ability to cook what little food remained fresh. The crackle of burning wood filled the darkness, a small but constant defense against the cold pressing in from all sides. Food was the greatest concern. Winter offered no second chances. Meat from autumn hunts was smoked or dried, hung high to keep it safe from moisture and pests. Fish were salted or air-dried in the cold northern winds. Grain was ground and stored in sealed containers, protected from dampness and rodents. Dairy products were turned into butter and cheese, foods that could last when fresh milk could not. Nothing was wasted. Every part of an animal had value. Bones became tools, fat became fuel and food. Hides were cleaned and cured, later turned into clothing, boots, and blankets. The Vikings understood scarcity intimately. Their survival depended on respect for resources and the discipline to preserve them. As autumn tightened its grip, travel became dangerous. Snow concealed familiar paths. Ice could betray even experienced walkers. Storms arrived without mercy, driven by winds that scoured the land. In these months, the world felt smaller. The horizon narrowed to the walls of the homestead and the circle of firelight within. Yet life did not stop. It changed. Long nights encouraged storytelling, teaching, and reflection. Elders passed down knowledge earned through hardship. Children learned not only skills, but patience. The winter was a teacher, harsh but honest. It rewarded preparation and punished neglect. Clothing played a critical role in enduring the cold. Wool, linen, and animal fur were layered carefully. Garments were designed to trap heat without restricting movement. Cloaks were fastened tightly against the wind. Mittens and hats were not luxuries, but necessities. Wet clothing could be fatal, so care was taken to keep garments dry and well-maintained. The cold crept into everything. Breath fogged the air indoors. Frost formed on walls. Even near the fire, warmth was limited. Sleep came in shared spaces, bodies close together beneath heavy coverings. This closeness was practical, but it also reinforced bonds. Illness posed a constant threat. With limited food and little sunlight, bodies weakened. Simple injuries could become serious. Someone still had to feed animals, tend fires, and fetch water through ice and snow. The Vikings lived with the understanding that winter claimed lives. Stories of past seasons carried warnings as much as memories. Outside, the land lay frozen and silent. Forests stood bare, their branches etched against pale skies. The sea, so vital in warmer months, became unpredictable and dangerous. Boats rested idle, waiting for the thaw. The Vikings, known for their journeys, now turned inward, focusing on endurance rather than expansion. Winter was not an enemy to be conquered, but a force to be endured. It demanded humility. As weeks turned to months, supplies dwindled, meals grew simpler, portions shrank. Hunger was a familiar companion. In the darkness, time felt different. Without long days, life followed other markers. The cycle of tending the fire, feeding animals, sharing meals, and resting repeated endlessly. This repetition brought both comfort and strain. And yet, within this harsh season, there was resilience. Laughter still surfaced around the hearth. Songs were sung softly into the night. Craftwork filled idle hands, producing tools, repairs, and objects of quiet beauty. Winter pressed on, heavy and unyielding, but so did the people who lived through it. Each sunrise, faint and cold, marked another step closer to spring, even if it could not yet be felt. As the heart of winter settled in, the world beyond the longhouse seemed distant and unreal. Snowdrifts reshaped familiar landscapes, covering fields, paths, and markers of human presence. The care of animals became one of the most demanding responsibilities. Livestock represented wealth, food, and future survival. Hay harvested during summer was rationed with precision. Too much, and supplies would run out before spring. Too little, and animals would weaken or perish. Water was another constant challenge. Streams froze, wells iced over. Access required daily effort. Hunting did not entirely stop, but it became more difficult. Tracks were easier to see in snow, yet animals were scarce and cautious. Fishing beneath ice required skill and patience. Holes were cut, lines lowered into dark water. Inside, food preparation was slow and deliberate. Hard bread was softened in stews. Meals were shared evenly, reinforcing trust within the household. Fairness mattered. Clothing required constant attention. Tears were mended. Worn areas were reinforced. Darkness dominated the season. In the far north, days became little more than a pale glow on the horizon. The absence of light affected the body and the mind. Fatigue came easily. Spirits could sink. The Vikings met this challenge through routine and shared purpose. Structure gave shape to endless nights. Stories took on deeper meaning in winter. Tales of ancestors, gods, and journeys beyond the known world filled the long hours. Children learned through observation. Winter was their classroom. Despite preparation, fear was never absent. A single storm could trap smoke inside a longhouse. Fire, essential for warmth, could also destroy everything if it escaped control. Vigilance was constant. The cold crept into sleep. Even wrapped in layers, bodies shivered. Dreams were restless. Yet morning always arrived, however faint the light. Rising again was an act of quiet defiance against the season. As supplies dwindled, difficult decisions emerged. Some animals were slaughtered earlier than planned to reduce feeding demands. The Vikings measured time by endurance rather than calendars. Each survived week was a milestone. Still, signs were watched closely. The behavior of animals, the quality of snow, the changing wind all carried meaning. Community extended beyond the household when conditions allowed. Neighbors checked on one another. Small acts of assistance strengthened bonds. In winter, cooperation was not idealism, but necessity. The land remained unforgiving, but it was not hostile without reason. Those who respected its rhythms found ways to endure. Gradually, almost imperceptibly, change began. The days lengthened by moments. Light lingered just a little longer. The sun gained strength, though cold still ruled. These subtle shifts were noticed and cherished. Hope returned quietly, not as celebration, but as relief. The worst had been faced and survived. Though hunger remained and storms still threatened, the knowledge that winter's hold would eventually loosen gave renewed strength. As the season edged toward its end, the weight of winter began to lift in small, fragile ways. Snow softened underfoot, ice cracked and shifted. The sun climbed slightly higher, casting longer shadows across the land. These signs did not bring immediate comfort, but they carried meaning. The final weeks of winter were often the hardest. Supplies were lowest, bodies were tired, patience was worn thin. Yet this was when discipline mattered most. Carelessness now could undo months of endurance. Fires were still guarded, food was still rationed. Work continued, even as anticipation grew. When the first true thaw arrived, it came with danger of its own. Melting snow flooded low ground. Roofs sagged under moisture. Paths turned to mud. Still, these challenges were welcomed. Survival through the long winter was not marked by celebration, but by quiet acknowledgement. Those who remained understood what they had endured. Losses were remembered. Success was measured simply by being alive. The knowledge gained during winter did not fade with the snow. It became part of collective memory. Tools were repaired again. Fields were readied. The rhythm of survival continued. For the Vikings, winter was not an interruption of life. It was life, distilled to its core. It stripped existence down to essentials, revealing what truly mattered: foresight, cooperation, restraint, and resilience. Their survival was not the result of a single invention or moment of brilliance. It was the outcome of countless small decisions made correctly, day after day, in conditions that offered no forgiveness for mistakes. The long winter passed as it always did, leaving behind both scars and strength. And when spring finally arrived, it did so not as a victory over nature, but as a continuation of a fragile balance, one that the Vikings understood better than most. They endured because they prepared. They survived because they respected the land. And in the quiet aftermath of winter, their resilience stood as proof that even in the harshest conditions, human ingenuity and patience could carry life forward. Each day survived, each hardship endured, was a testament to foresight, discipline, and the human spirit. The long winter had passed. Life would continue, shaped by the lessons of endurance and care. The long winter had passed. Life would continue, shaped by the lessons of endurance and care. Life would continue, shaped by the lessons of endurance and care. Life would continue, shaped by the lessons of endurance and care. The long winter had passed. Life would continue, shaped by the lessons of endurance and care. The long winter had passed. Life would continue, shaped by the lessons of endurance and care.